Hello everyone. This is a video for 8th grade math so they can see how to work on their scatter plot activity for week 4. I'm just going to go through each of the set of instructions off of the assignment you were sent out, and then I'll take you through me doing one myself. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so your first set of instructions is number 1, deciding on topics. So to start the activity, you wanted to decide on 2 sets of data that you think might be related to each other. Make sure your data is school appropriate. Here are a few examples: car weight and fuel efficiency from our lessons last week, a basketball player's points per game average at different ages, the amount of a food item you are trying to cook and how much of an ingredient you need, etc. There's lots of different things you could try to come up with. So once again, I haven't really had many people asking me this. So if you're having trouble coming up with an idea, feel free to let me know and I'll help you out. I decided for my example to do the basketball players' points per game at different ages or in different seasons. So that's what we're going to be looking at here in just a moment. And then number 2, we have gather the data, create a table. So you wanted to come up with at least 6 data points based off your information. So I chose to do the basketball players' points per game. So what I did is I chose to do Michael Jordan, and I found his points per game average for each of the last 6 seasons he played basketball. So we're going to look at my table now. All right, give me just a moment. I'm going to zoom in on this for everybody. All right, so if you look here, I have my table. I have the NBA season that Michael Jordan scored these points in over here. I have 6 of them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And on the right hand side, I have what his points per game was. And I rounded that to the nearest half point. The reason I did that is that's going to help me a lot whenever I actually make my graph. So I have in 1994-95, he scored 27 points per game. In 95-96, he scored 30.5 points per game. In 96-97, he scored 29.5. In 97-98, 28.5. And then we have where he took one of his retirement breaks from playing basketball. And then after that, we have 2001, 2002. He scored 23 points per game. In 2002, 2003, he scored 20 points per game. So now I'm going to take these data points and we would then need to start on our scatter plot. The first thing I need to do is I need to decide what my scale is going to be for my scatter plot. So I'm going to take you through how I decided that. So NBA seasons tend to go up by 1 year at a time. So I'm going to do the same thing on my graph. Now on the average points per game, I rounded all of the points to the nearest half point. That way I could have logical time or point intervals on my graph. All right, so now I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to draw the first part of my scatter plot for you guys to look at. All right, everyone. So the first thing I did was set up the graph itself. Now, this won't be like a regular coordinate plane. I'm not going to have all 4 quadrants. I'm only looking at quadrant 2, just the positive numbers, because I'm only looking at real world numbers here. So I have points per game will go on the y-axis, and season, the time-related variable, which is almost always going to be your x, is going to go down here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put in my scales and then show you guys what those look like. Okay, so let's take a look at how I decided to do my scale. Now, I decided to just do this as a sketch instead of on graph paper, as I'm assuming that's what most of you are doing as well. So if you look down here on the x-axis, I went up by 1 year at a time, being the year that the season finished. So I have 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, all the way up to 2005. And then on points per game, I put the little cut symbol we can put here to put that you're skipping numbers. And then we're starting at 20. And then every line is half a point. So I go from 20, 20.5, 21, 21.5, 22, so on and so forth, all the way up to 30.5. So that's how I actually drew my graph. And now I'm going to go in and add my points. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and show you what that part's going to look like. Okay, so here are my points from my scatter plot. I have in the 94-95 season, Michael Jordan scored close to an average of 27 points per game. In 95-96, he scored close to 30.5. In 97, he scored close to 29.5. And then in the season ending in 98, he scored close to 28.5. But then he has one of his semi-retirements where he was going and doing other things, and so there's no points here. But then if you look over at the season that finished in 2002, he averaged close to 23 points per game. And then in the season that ended in 2003, he averaged actually exactly 20 points per game. So this is what my graph looks like. So to me, I'm going to use a different color for this, but I feel like there is a bit of a linear relationship going on, going close through here, because it looks like his points per game average as he got older started to decline. So my line of best fit would be really close to here. It might be more along this top row of points, but it's going to have the same general trajectory, it looks like. If we would have had a points per game average in these other seasons that are missing, I bet they would follow along through here. But we don't know that for sure. I would call this point over here an outlier, since it doesn't fit the rest of the graph, so keep that in mind. There was a random year that he had a droppage in points, so there's many things that could have accounted for that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and take us back over to the assignment sheet, and we'll look at the questions at the end together. Okay, guys, time to look at the analysis part. We'll start with part A. Do you see a pattern? And for me, I would say yes, because it looked like the points per game was trending down all but 1 year. So just with one outlier, I would say yes, I saw a pattern with the rest. If you answered yes to part A, does the pattern appear to be linear? And I'm going to say yes, I think it is linear. I think you could make a very good line through that. Make what we call a line of best fit. If I answered yes to part B, does the pattern appear to have positive or negative relationship? So I would say that this has a negative slope in how it's headed. So I would say that it's negative. Now, had it been like the beginning of his career that we were looking at, like his first 6 years, we might have seen an increase in the points per game. And in that case, it would have been positive. So keep that in mind. It's just like the slope of a line when you're deciding if it's trending positive or negative. And then last part, D. If your pattern was linear, try to draw a line of best fit. And that part I did while I was showing you guys the video. So that's everything you have to do. Now, once again, I feel like the toughest part is probably just coming up with your table and your data to draw and then deciding on the scale. So if you need any help with those parts, please feel free to let me know, or you can get on the Zoom meeting on Friday and ask me as well if you just would rather ask me in person. All right, you guys have a good rest of your evening.